Ajunulambita Pusho Kanakavadato Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Vishwambaro Liyaparo Yugadam Varam Andesha Katriya Vairapamu Pranavatam Andesha Krishna Deyanam Nirvana Sudhito Odani Pushpavanto Chitro Sando Vandeham Shriram Krishna Bhagavan Saranasako Sundaro Paramanando Sundaro Shivapriyo He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavando Jagapade Ovesha Gopikanta Radhananda Sute Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Ishwari Vishwanusute Pranamami Harike Guru Vaishnava Parampara Jai Gauratananda Jai Ram Jai Radha Govinda Jai Bhakti Vrinda Jai Ruth Ramanande Hari gathered together on the auspicious occasion of the Gaura Purnima, and in previous discussions, since I've been here, we began to explore the gurus of Gauranga. And we talked about these gurus, the Diksha Guru, the Nam Guru, the Mantra Guru, the Sannyas Guru, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, both from in doing some moving between Krishna Lila and Gaur Lila, in that the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gauranga Shamdigani, Nityasiddha Kurimani, Narkin sings. They are all eternal associates, Nityasiddha, they're Nityasiddhas. The Gauranga Shamdigani, one group of associates. So they, I mean to say that they have their role in the drama of Krishna Lila. I've often said and mentioned in our discussions as well earlier this week that the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he began to manifest himself as a Vaishnava, he came within their fold and became the natural leader therein. From time to time, they would have an epiphany to the extent that it appeared that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Krishna himself. And but then they reasoned that, well, if he was Krishna, then where would his associates be? Where, so it must not be, which is a very keen theological insight, right? As Prabhupada used to say in a simple way, Krishna's never alone. This is the Chinta Beta Beta Tattva. Krishna and love of Krishna are one. So you can't have one without it. You can't have a guru without students. Right? So the two, we have the object of love and the love. So Krishna, perfect object of love, and the devotees, personification of different mellows of love. Shantavasa, and so they reasoned wisely that I'll give you another example. Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj was once commenting on why we Gaudiyas were not where we didn't sing the songs of Mirabai Mirabai is a famous saint. Sadvi, the plural, the feminine for sadhu, and was a contemporary, as I recall, the story of Jiva Goswami. Did many songs about Krishna, but Jivachita was explaining that even though songs we don't find as we do in our Gaudiya songs over the centuries, an emphasis on the associates of Krishna, Nanda, Yashoda, Radha, Lalita, Vishaka, Subal, Sridham, Sridhamadi, Jai Jai, Sridhamadi, Jai, Sridhamadi, Jai, oh Jai, Jai Ram, Jai Krishna, Jai, Sridhamadi, Jai, Jai, Deva Vatsakam. And I think this Krishna is describing the calves, the cows, the whole setting, right? The way we, of course, look at that is that in order for the central focus of the drama to take place, the Parakiya Amor, between Radha and Krishna, all these elements, different sentiments and so forth are required. It's not appearing in a vacuum. You need the I say the incompatible rasas, such as Vatsalya, in order for there to be Madhurya of the Parakiya variety, not casting some objection, otherwise how would proceed, and so forth. So it's a composite. Right? And I could just emphasize this in a simplistic way that we, with a very strong emphasis on this, that these different sentiments should not be looked at as we look at and grade and give statuses of hierarchy, if you will, to other things within material existence. And for that matter, Kaviraj Krishnadas, when he does assert the hierarchy, with the hierarchy, so it's the hierarchical position, I should say, of Madhurya Rasa, he immediately follows that with, but this you may look at this objectively, but the subjective reality, which is what really holds true, is that every rasa is best for those that feel it's the best. That's how that's their experience, right? And for that matter, well, so deep editing, Pujapakshita was making this point. In her songs, we don't find all these things. Reminds me of another instance. Shortly after I was serving Prabhupada separately from ISKCON, I started publishing a magazine, and I wrote a lot of the articles under different names and so forth, short of other authors. I have every now and then something. But at one time I decided to I wanted to write an article on the widows of Vrindavan, famous, they're still Bengali ladies who lost their husbands and widowed, and so they came to live in Vrindavan. So there's a model that they followed. And of course it didn't, I mean, I know it, but it didn't strike me at the time. So I was in Vrindavan and I was interviewing the leader, if you will, of one of the largest ashrams, the widows. And so I was asking her various questions for the article and so forth. And one of the questions I asked her is that, do you have a patron saint amongst you? Female patrons, that she didn't know what I meant. So I said, we happen to be near the Mirabai temple, it's a small little temple. I said like Mirabai. She said, oh, no. She didn't mean, no, we don't have a patron saint. Said, no, not Mirabai. And then she looked at me and she said, Vishnu Priya.
Yeah.
Vishnu Priya, the giant obvious, right? And they say it. That they're all following the example of Vishnu Priya. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, she retired into a life of renunciation, the standards of which, well, bhajan, I should say. And her bhajan, Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayoja, Janayati Shabhaivagyam, Jnanam Chayavaitikam, right? The Jnanam, the Vairagyam that correspond with one another, the knowledge and the detachment arise naturally out of bhakti very quickly if you really do bhakti like she did, right? So the standard of her renunciation is often highlighted how she would take a grain of rice and chant the name, a bead, and or on the ground, whatever, and however. When she finished her chanting, however many grains of rice had been transferred from one pile to another. With that pile, she would cook, and that's what she would eat, and start the next day, and so on and so forth. So her renunciation is often emphasized, and it's shocking and it's inspiring, but we should understand it properly because it wasn't a way. The sannyasa ashram, which is the sannyasa ashram, it's not like a way. It should be a result. As I quoted the verse from Bhagavatam, Janayati ashu vairagyam jnanam chayaravaituka. Jnanam and vairagyam, they come quickly out of bhakti as a byproduct of bhakti. So we should try to understand her bhakti, right? You're inspired by the byproduct of the bhakti. And then we go and fast and sleep less and so on and so forth. And this is forced and a little bit of a gyan kind of influence covering bhakti. And our bhakti should be gyan karmadi, right? Uncovered by gyan, by karma. But these are the two kind of sides of the coin of material life run on bhog and tyak, same thing, karma and gyan. So we come in from there and we come into bhakti, and then we tend to sometimes, I remember I told this story before, I met a fellow after a long time, and he said, "Oh, Marsh, I haven't seen God, but I haven't seen you. Where are you staying now?" I said, "Oh, I haven't watched in California. He said, "Well, how many devotees?" And I said, 4. And but he kind of like turned pale almost, and he didn't want to say anything, but he felt, I shouldn't have asked that. It's embarrassing. As if the numbers and the amount of money that you have, the number of buildings that you have, are evidence of your bhakti. Was what I drew from that, if you will. Bhakti covered by karma, another example. So bhakti is very subtle, right? To understand what is actually bhakti. That's what we're trying to do. That's why we're not as advanced, because we don't quite understand it entirely, and we misunderstand it. We're not entirely in the fold. We are as sadhakas, devotees in progress, right? Like apprentices. Sadhana bhakti is like an apprenticeship, because the emotive component of bhakti. What does Rupa Goswami say? Gyan karmani anukulena Krishna bhakti. So in this verse, among other things, it's explained that there's a active and an emotive component to bhakti. So we are doing the active component, chanting, dancing, playing the drum, these kind of things. But the emotive component is not fully manifest. This is Bhava Bhakti, right? In Bhava Bhakti, there will also be action, but it will be driven out from the ecstasy. One time in New Dwarka, my Gaura Bhavananda, who was a rather big fellow, after Prabhupada give the Bhagavatam class, then there'd be a short kirtan. So after the kirtan, Bhavananda began to dance like this. He was kind of doing something like this, And Prabhupada afterwards said, I saw Bhavananda and he was dancing. And I thought, he had got the Bhav. And then I realized, okay, it was just his speculation on the dance. It wasn't arising out of Bhav. Prabhupada once taught us how to dance. He was very conservative. In Gaudiya Math, typically no one would dance unless they had Bhava. So movement out of Bhava. But there's movement before Bhava. So sometimes you must say, somebody say, dance and the Bhava will come, something like that. Raise your hands before the deity, but let him know that you're there. So imitation of a good thing is sometimes said to be a good thing, right? This is sadhana bhakti. But we want we come to when the emotive component is in place, then we've entered into bhakti proper. So we're practicing. We want to be guided. That bhakti, for example, won't be covered by karma, covered by gallons. So how we got there, I'm not sure. Some interesting points raised. But what was I saying?
Associates of Mahaprabhu.
Associates of Mahaprabhu. Different than Mirabai, right? Saintly as she is, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, we accept that we honor what's his name? Famous in Bengal. Uganda's guru.
Ramakrishna.
Ramakrishna. We respect him as a sadhu, but we don't agree with him. We don't agree with his siddhanta, his teaching. Right? We can respectfully disagree with other sadhus and also with one another sometimes. And within Gaudiya Vaishnavism, there are a lot of there's room for nuance, different ways, different angles of looking at the blue sapphire, Ujjwal Nilmani. It's Bhagavan Shri Krishna himself appearing in a golden form, of course, right? And he appeared with his associates. His associates reasoned in their epiphany when it appeared to them at times. Maybe he's giving Krishna praying out like water. Who can do that? If he's a god, well, he wouldn't be Brahma. He wouldn't be Kurma or this avatar or that avatar, because, well, these avatars, these forms of God have no interest in Prema Madhurya, in Lila Madhurya. These are two of the four qualities, for example, that Krishna possesses that no other form of the Godhead possesses. Lila Madhurya, Prema Madhurya, Venu Madhurya, Rupa Madhurya. Rupa Madhurya is sweet form, sweet flute, right? But sweet Leelas, this means it's Madhurya Rasa. For example, well, all of the rasas of Braj, of course, are called Madhurya in a broader sense, rather than Aishvarya, the Aishvarya of Vaikuntha. The sweetness of Braj, these Leelas, Madhurya and Prema Madhurya, this kind of praying. There's also praying in Vaikuntha, but it's harness. It's love in which object is there, object of love, and the love in between, and the worshiper. There's the object of love. There's the worshipped. I should say there's the worshiper, and there's the worship. And the worship creates a bridge, right, between the worshiper and the worshipped. But the bridge is there. In Braj Bhakti, there's no bridge. There's no bridge. Therefore, and we'll come to this later, Radharani, if you want to understand praying. She says something like this: those who say, I love you, they know nothing about love. Why? Because in love, there is no other. This is non-duality ornamented decorated, dressed up for the dance, right? This is a Gopi version, Chaitanya version. So they thought anyway, the associates of Mahaprabhu. Well, he appears to be a god. Let's look in the Puranas. Does any one of them do? What time do we live in, and so on and so forth. And so they came to a wise conclusion that he must be Krishna. I'm just giving you one example. He's giving out Krishna prema. He's giving out. He's absorbed in, preoccupied with Lila Madhurya. This is not the preoccupation of the Narayan's avatars, Lila avatars. Some of them whom I've mentioned. This is Krishna only, and he's giving this Krishna prema out. Raha's not going to be giving out Krishna. He's giving out some kind of prema, not Krishna prema, and he's giving it like water. It's his own property to distribute at will. So they reasoned theologically in their Shastra Yukti along these lines, and they had an epiphany. But then they thought, well, be conclusive about it. If he were Krishna, where are his associates? Because Krishna's not one. There's this composite, right? This is Veda Veda. We say Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, but he does. He goes to Dwarka. He goes to Mathura, right? Well, so it would appear. But be wise enough to think, well, the love of Vrindavan, exceeds in intensity, if you will, the love of Mathura and Dwarka, where Krishna left his flute behind. Gopis took his flute, I guess, and kept it there in Braj, and he went on without it. Right? But who is Krishna from our point of view? Without his flute. If he loves his flute, he won't be able to sleep at night. Right? You have to look for it. Shake his friend among help me find the flute. Who's taking it, right? So this is one way of speaking about the reality, if you will, of Krishna, even in Mathura and Dwarka. He's reflecting back. Why did he even go to Mathura? Why did he then go to Dwarka? We study carefully the Bhagavatam. It's for the sake of Brajvasis. That people, hordes would not come and attack Braj and so forth and so on. The fort in Dwarka and so on. Right? So anyway, when they thought like this, then at some point they got a further epiphany. Who are this? So if he was Krishna, where his associates? And they realized it's us. We're his associates. Oh my God, where are we? We're in another Leela altogether. But what is our role? And then that would close, the curtain on that would close. And then their role there in this Leela, sadhakas. This is the land, Nadia. Sadhaka, Siddha, Bhumi, the land, Bhumi, where siddhas are playing the role of sadhakas. Playing the role is not maybe the best way to say it. They are absorbed in the role. And sometimes the curtain opens and you realize I'm in a role. I'm from another Leela. And this is not another Leela, but an extension of that very Leela. At the zenith of that Leela. That this Leela of Gaura, that zenith, the high point of sacred rapture, Rasananda, in Krishna Leela, it's described in the Bhagavad, the Prakat Leela, is the genesis of Gaura Leela. It's not another Leela. I'll give an example. If you have a reversible jacket, you have a black jacket and it's got gold cuffs and a gold collar, but if you turn it around, it's got black cuffs and black collar, and the body is golden. Antar Krishna. Swami. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Inside, he's Krishna. He's black. He's dark. Black and beautiful. Sham Sundar. But outside, he's golden. Or he's golden. what is the kind of wonderful thing is this? This inner moment at the zenith of Rasananda within Prakat, within Krishna Leelas, now manifesting in the world. And that high point of sweetness is being given out like water. Audarya. It means the sweetness is there, but something is added. So, which is more complete. One of my disciples once said, it sounds to me like Gaura Leela is kind of a little boring in comparison to like Krishna Leela is all the same tree. So don't think like that. All these angas of bhakti that you practice, and it's said in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and this anga, this happens, you do this anga, this happens. You see the Rath Yatra and you go to Vaikuntha, one time and so forth. He said, yeah. So I said, well, it means that there are examples are given which shows that these things can happen from just this once chanting Krishna Nam, once seeing the Rath Yatra, chasing, following the deity in the processional, so on. So many elements are there. He's given 64. Once, but it's not having to deal with it yet, even once, right? So not yet. But in Gaura Leela, it happens every time, right? But so here, again, these are siddhas in the role of sadhaka. So imagine if this is the extension in one sense of Gaura Leela. If every time Agni chanted, the stones wept, and so forth, right? And you wouldn't think it was a boring place to be, even in comparison, Krishna Leela. Indeed, that's where Krishna Leela is found, right? Because the curtain moves and they find themselves in Krishna Leela. And then it closes and they're back in Gaura Leela, right? Said for Pachita Maharaj, first the giver, then the gift. And if you get a gift, you always remember the giver. The giver is more important than the gift. Never anybody gives me anything like a bar of soap or something. It's amazing. I'm thinking of them. So she gave me a bar of soap. How kind. It smells nice. For Gaura is the giver, Krishna Leela. And Gaura arises out of Krishna Leela. So it's a circle. Right? Which comes first? The answer is both. And you can say that in a circle. Which comes first? The seed of the tree. We're going in a circle. Both. This is meant to take us outside the space between our ears, which is a small, very narrow space. So many possibilities. So they thought like this. And this Gaura Leela, let's say, it's found in the zenith or the apex, the high point. The whole Bhagavad description of the Leela is building up to, and then afterwards is looking back at. And that is, of course, the Ras Panchadhyaya. And within the Ras Panchadhyaya, certain points. I want to go to the verse, of course, that is in the text that describes the genesis of Gaura Leela. And then we'll see once that takes us into Gaura Leela, and for the internal reason of that Leela's manifestation, we'll try to locate Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Ragmarg Guru. Right? We haven't talked about it. This is going to be difficult to locate them in Krishna Leela. And I'll explain why. It's a little complicated. So we can find it in Gaura Leela, then we'll have to think. Well, I think there are different ways to think about how we might be represented in Krishna Leela. One of us say his name, right? Ramananda Roy. Yes. So from Bhagavad, then we go to Ras Panchadhyaya in this famous Krishna Pareham Nirvadya Samaya. So Sadhu Krityam Dudhaya Sativa, Yama Bhajan Durdara, Deha Shinkala, Sambrishchata Baha, Pratiyatu Sadhuna. So this verse comes, I'll give you some background, but say I'll reiterate things that you're all well familiar with. Krishna perfected, I should say, the playing of the flute. Perfection of his playing the flute, which he had been doing since the time he got that flute, is understood. It's understood that he perfected the flute playing when, as a result of playing the flute, he could get all the gopis to come, right? No, they could all come. But if one didn't come, it wouldn't be perfect. One came and the others didn't come, it'd still be perfect. That's the Dharmavika Radha herself, right? Gopal Champu is a beautiful chapter. It's an original chapter of Jiva Swami. Mostly the book is taking us through the chapters of the Bhagavatam, the Prakat Leela, and retelling them from the vantage point of the Aprakat Leela. But he has an original chapter there where Krishna plays his flute and all the gopis come. But Radha passed out and couldn't make it. And he couldn't proceed with the rest of the dance. Right? So at this setting, in the Ras Panchajaya, of course, Radharani comes and the dance commences, but Krishna takes off with her and the rest of the gopikas are left to try to find him without realizing that he has gone off with Radhika. And of course, in due course, they see the footprint, they're following footprints of Krishna, they find, oh, there's another one. What is the verse? Anyway, Radha's name is found there, right? Radha, parents. Radha, no, it's different. Yeah. The best worshiper, right? Best worshiper. Someone has worshipped him better than us. Therefore, he left us and he with her, they thought. Right? Different commentators over the centuries have identified who's speaking on that occasion. I believe Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur attributes the speaking to the group of Lita Visakhi, Lita and Shaka, friends of Radha, and in the Manjarigam, a group of Manjaris, who would be acquainted with Radha's footprint and the lines on it and all the details of that, and seeing that imprinted in the land could identify. Bhaktivinoda takes another course, so in his Bhagavatarkam Richinimal, where he chose 1,000 verses from the Bhagavatam. He categorized them according to Sambandha, Avideya, and Prayojan. He tells us, Srup Damodar appeared before me and told me to write this book. Yeah, so, what was the verse? So,
Chittahari says, Anaya Radhika.
Anaya Radhika. Okay, thank you. So, and so on. So, he says, Chandravali pointed out that another one has worshipped better. This is, of course, Radharani's cousin and sometimes a competitor. Right? And I thought it was a nice way of looking at that particular point. Which gopis are saying that? Because if Chandravali is saying it, then it's really like confirmed, right? Yes. If she's saying that Radha's a better worshiper, but anyway, Krishna, they followed further. Meanwhile, Krishna's with Radhika, and then she asks, I think you should carry me here, and instead he puts her down and he disappears. And why that happened? What's behind all of that? Who would know, right? Well, we'll hear about that, but without going into it at the moment, of course, the other gopis caught up with Radha and Krishna, with Radha, and seeing the measure of her ecstasy and separation, which eclipsed their own measure of ecstasy combined, they had further confirmation that amongst us, she's special in the eyes of Govinda. Of course, our whole objective here is part of the gopis is to please Krishna. She's pleased him best. And so they gathered around her, gave her solace and so forth. They went to the banks of Yamuna, and then you come into the Gopi Gita. And as the gopis are singing in Sankirtan, Krishna shows up, right? Again, he comes into their midst. And they're trying to figure him out. What is he? And they ask him, what kind of lover are you, by the way? The implication being that, you've called us, we came, you disappeared. What's going on? What kind of lover are you? And Krishna so artfully replies, so charming, replies to them, and speaks philosophically also about the nature of love. And in the context of doing so, he underscores their love. He calls it sadhuna, saintly love. There are those who love only if they are loved. This is a kind of bargaining. He says, real love there. There are those who love even when others don't love them. Parents are like that to some extent. The full expression of that is the saints, sadhus. There are others who don't love. There's atmakam, who are self-satisfied, therefore they don't love. And so on. He gives different examples, but he says the best is the love of the sadhus. He's saying here, and that is the nature of your love. And but you're asking, what kind of lover am I? Right. I want to point out what type of lover you are, and that's the best kind of lover in a broad sense. But you want to know what kind of lover I am, and indirectly, I suppose, by wanting to understand why I disappeared. But I'm informed that the reason that I disappeared, after there's this discourse on different types of lovers and so forth, that I wanted to see that if someone has something valuable and they lose it, then we can understand the extent to which they really felt it was valuable. If it's in their company, we may not know that how valuable they think it is, but someone's carrying around their, let's say they value their computer because they've got their book that they wrote on it. If they lose it, then everything will be lost. So suddenly it's missing. Where's my computer? So then you see, the separation, how much he or she values that particular object. So Krishna explains like this. And so I know that you love me, you came here, and I gave up everything and so forth, but I disappeared to see just how much you love me. And seeing that, of course, he goes on to say, and I'm indebted to that kind of love. I cannot reciprocate in kind. And therefore, this verse comes out. I'm going to give you a beautiful translation of this verse. It says, I am not able to return your seva in kind if I were to try until the gods die. Your connection and union with me is immaculate. Loving me, you have severed the world knot, hearth and home, so difficult to untie. Thus, may your saintliness be your recompense, be its own reward. But the thought of Krishna here further is, oh, if only I could become so sadhana, so saintly. If only I could become so saintly. The Krishna is saying that the measure of your love is so extraordinary that even if I was to live as long as the gods, chief of which, in one sense, is Brahma with regard to duration of life. Well, if I could, even if I could live that long, I couldn't retake even the implications. Even if I could take birth once in every day of Brahma, and for the entire rest of the day of Brahma, I tried. I could not reciprocate in kind for your love, such is the nature. I mean, imagine how they're starting to feel embarrassed. They even ask the question. This guy is he is fantastic. I mean, we had a little doubt about him, his character and so forth. And we think we have good reason, but he just turns our heads upside down. He's just, I mean, this is you have to understand. You like the gopis, they like Krishna. How charming is Krishna, right? I'm making a case for Krishna today. For a moment. And so they're just completely disarmed. If they had any, why did you do that? They're completely charmed, completely captivated. Their hearts are completely melted. And he means what he says here. He means it. I can't repay in kind. Your love is of the saintly nature to the highest degree, and it has to be its own recompense, its own. In itself, your sadhuness affords you an experience in love that exceeds my own. This is, of course, a very heavy moment for Krishna, because he's God. And all the scriptures say so. All the yogis think so, and so on and so forth. But he's in somewhat of a adolescent existential crisis at this time. I'm God, and I'm the king of Rasaraj. But I'm now, having disappeared to see the measure of the gopis' love, and seeing it, I'm realizing that there's a measure of rasa that I'm not acquainted with. Am I God? Maybe. Don't tell anybody. The whole yogic world will fall apart here. And all the things of the scripture will be nullified, and they come from me. I am the Veda, and this is infallible. But I'm having a doubt about it at the moment. I'm in doubt. But of course, he's very, very, very wise, very, 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 very crafty, and so forth. So he comes quickly to the conclusion that what I see in the gopis, and the Radha in particular, is a result of their experiencing something in me that I don't have the experience of. So it is me. I am God. The scriptures are correct. I didn't deceive the world for eons. It is me, but there's something about me that I can't experience from my vantage point that Radharani is experiencing. So it's okay. It's settled a little bit, but given my nature, given his nature, I'm drawn to want to taste that. Right? Prabhupada used to say this in a simple way. This is some substance of what we're talking about here, which is the very center of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He used to say, Krishna, the whole world, the theological world, feels that God is the most worshipable object. And we are teaching about what is the worshipable object of God. We've got a task. You want to teach this? Oh, you got to think about that. You got to really that will, you try to think of how will I explain that to somebody? Hmm? You see how consuming that will be for the mind? Hmm? Now you go out and sit under the oak tree out here. Hmm? We'll put a little hut over you. And we give you some beads and you can just chant Hare Krishna. See how long you last, trying to control your mind in japa. That won't work. Come out, now do this. Try to use your mind like this. How will I tell people? Hmm? In the theological world, hmm, there's a worshipable object for God. Hmm? So how to translate that out, how to present that. See, this is how the Yuga Dharma, if you will, the external reason for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, which he embraced and engaged himself in, wide circulation of dispensation of the holy name, teachings, and so on and so forth, corresponds with or coincides with or is in sync with the internal reasons. Out of one, former, comes the latter, right? Kirtan is extending the teaching. It is at the same time we are growing within, we're sharing it without, right? So Krishna wants to taste that, and the implication here is that he while glorifying their saintliness, he says, what? Sambrishchatad va pradiyatu sadhuna. The key word is sadhana. Thus, may your saintliness be your recompense. Oh, if only I could become a sadhu. Thus, Krishna suggests, something from one of my writings I'll share with you, that the gopis' saintliness, sadhana, is its own reward. There is nothing higher than this. However, in the above verse, the word sadhana can also refer to a saint, implying that if Krishna could himself become a sadhu, perhaps he could repay the milk maidens through his saintliness. And this is, of course, exactly what he does. Indeed, once in every day of Brahma, he adopts the guise of a sadhu and sings in Sankirtan of their virtues. Thus we find hidden in this verse his intention to openly praise the gopis' praying, and that of Radhika in particular, and given his nature to do so, with the hidden hope that he might taste it himself. Were it not for Gaura and his parshas, the secrets of the Srimad Bhagavatam would have remained hidden. The Lord, this is the genesis of the Gaura Lila, right? It's non-different from Vrindavan. You can understand how this is non-different from Vrindavan. This is just about Vrindavan. It's not about anything else. It's not about Ayodhya. It's not about Antipa or anywhere else. It's this totally internal Vrindavan subject. So a Lila that will come out of that has to be an extension of that very same Lila. Therefore we say, Navadvip, Svetadvip, Nam, Navadvip, Gram. That's Vrindavan Das says. That place called Svetadvip, which the part of Svetadvip, which Jiva Swami has identified as the inner circle of Gokul, differentiated from Parasvetadvip, from Svetadvip, the outer circle where there's Aishvarya, even in the Loka, the inner circle. There's only Madhurya, only the sweetness, only the intimacy. Vrindavan says. Svetadvip Nam Navadvip Gram, and this is and eventually the whole world, like this will be broadcast all over the world. And Navadvip is not different from Vrindavan. I cited this the other morning when we were discussing this. My Guru Maharaj did this in his graphic. Prabhupada came up with a graphic for his Srimad Bhagavatam. He came to the United States. He had 3 volumes of the first canto, and there was a you call it a jacket and graphic, and the BBT followed up on that and kept that graphic for the first canto. What is that graphic? Well, there's this like blue sky, there's all these planets. It says it Hoksajan and Shingha, Ramana, all the Vaikuntha Lokas, different faces of Narayan, if you will. And then in the center, there's a lotus, right? And inside the lotus, there's Radha and Krishna. look again. I say if you look closely at Krishna, you look real closely, what will you see? Keep looking, you'll see Radha. 201, right? It's like those things, you don't understand what they call them, but you look at it like this, and you see something there that wasn't there, and you turn it another way. Oh, something like that. You look at Krishna close enough, you'll see the love of Krishna that he corresponds with, that he's the object of. Can't have one without the other, right? Therefore, Jiva Goswami says, Brahman, the feature of Brahman, of the Absolute, is Bhagavan, wherein his Swarup Shakti is unmanifest. The Jiva is said to be the likeness with Brahman. This is its likeness. Its Swarup Shakti is not manifest. Its nature as the eternal servant of Krishna hasn't come out. Right? That's a normal, really long discussion, interesting one. But Brahman, unmanifest. That means where it is manifest. Brahman is everywhere. Right? Brahman is everywhere. So if you're everywhere, there is nowhere to go. Right? And Brahman knows everything. If you know everything, it really comes nothing to do. You already know everything. Boredom could set in. Right? Go to sleep. Come to me and rest. It's been a struggle, hasn't it? For a long time, so many lifetimes. Come to me and rest. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, sounds okay, but I want to get up and dance too. Think about that. Must be more to it than that, right? So, again, if you're everywhere, how can you move? We've got the answer. That is Krishna, Krishna Lila. Dancing under the influence of bhakti. What is the power then of bhakti? Bhakti has the power to make that which is everywhere move. It doesn't, like I say, fit between the ears, but it's nice, right? There can be movement that arises out of the necessity, out of a feeling of incompleteness. That is how we move in material life. But why can't there be movement out of completeness? If you're really complete, if you're really full, then you want to celebrate. Right? So this is the movement in Leela. It may look similar to the movement under the influence of karma, but they're very different. Right? And what is giving Brahman, if you will, or causing the qualities of Brahman that are unmanifest to manifest, the form of Brahman to manifest, the Leelas, and so that is bhakti. Right? So, but anyway, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu
comes the saint.
Comes as a saint.
Krishna comes as a saint.
You look at Krishna as a saint. Look at Krishna, you'll see Radha. Right? Right? Look more, you'll see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Or you can do the other way around. Look at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, keep looking, you'll see Krishna. Keep looking, you'll see Radha. Right? So the in the deepest section of the Braj Leela, we find this extension of it. Gaur Leela must be none different than Krishna. It can't be a Leela of another avatar who has no interest in Leela Madhurya. And this interest is not only superficial, but very deep interest in Leela Madhurya, very deep interest in Prema Madhurya. And that Venu Madhurya, you got to be with his flute too. With his flute, that's the problem. If he hasn't got a flute, I mean, if he's in Braj, he hasn't got a flute. That's temporary. That's a beautiful Leela. But if he's outside, he's carrying something else instead of the flute. The problem, right? With the Brajvasis, problem for the old bhaktas. As much as in a deeper sense, the sannyas Leela is a problem, Chaitanya, a problem for the Dhamvasis of Navadvip. It's good for us. We have to come to that, but it's meant to take us beyond itself and back to Navadvip, right? There he appeared, Navadvip, right on the full moon day, covered by Rahu, because Rahu felt like, whatever the earth shadow felt like. There's a more bright object appearing on the horizon than the full moon and the Gaura or Chandra, right? There he appeared, and of course, in due course, he manifested himself as the Vaishnava. And the base for his Nam Sankirtan was the courtyard of Shiva's Tower, right? There he would do he opened his nocturnal school of Kirtan. This is in Navadvip. But now everything will be realized in Shiva Sangha. In the Kirtan of Shiva Sangha, in the Kirtan Rasa, everything will be realized. We saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would call in the midst of the Kirtan, would stop and say, see who you are. Murari Gupta. I am Ram. You are Hanuman, right? This Mahaprakash. This kind of moment in a Leela, confirming you are my associates, not only in this, but in other Leelas, where I extend myself, so forth, or the faces of myself. Imagine. What is the Kirtan? But the problem is, and it's kind of a good problem, is that some people wanted to enter that Kirtan, but they knew, or they felt that they were unqualified, and they revered it and worshipped it in the bank of the Ganga. Ujjala Pata Gaura Banga Matal Harijana Kirtan. This is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's one line of the poem that Sridhar Maharaj engraved in the stone above his temple. It just encapsulates his approach to Raga Bhakti. His idea was that, and he wrote this after they opened, at the opening of the Bhag Bazar month. Bhag Bazar month was also known in short as the Marble Temple. The Marble Temple. It means there was a lot of money that was collected to build that temple in Calcutta from wealthy people and from the Bhadralok, the middle class of pious Hindus who weren't living in the Dham, where there were Shripats, the Dwadasa Gopals and so forth, those little centers, bamboo earth, but this is the Marble Temple. It was something like what we compare it to. Maybe we could compare it to what the Goswamis were the architects of in Vrindavan, like Radha Govinda temple, the Radha Mohan temple. These temples, Radha Gopinath. So I bring this up just for making the point. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's brother, Lili Prasad, worked with him for some time when he started his mission, and when he began to initiate in the presence of Bhakti Vinod and Gopashwara Prabhuji. But after their disappearance, he had some differences with Bhaktisiddhanta. And one of the criticisms was, what is this? He's left the Rag Marg, building all these temples, building big temples. He's left the Rag Marg. Did the Goswamis leave the Rag Marg? When he built the Radha Govinda temple? When he built the Radha Gopinath temple? Radha Madan Mohan temple? Right? No. Right? So, it's hard to understand Rag Marg also. To speak of understand Bhakti, it's hard to understand Bhakti with speak of Rag Bhakti. This was his idea. His idea was, he wrote this verse, when they took the deities from a rented building into the marble temple was completed. And again, a lot of money was raised by his students to build that marble temple. And his idea was that we will take another actual literal verses. Vishaya means like worldliness. So we will take the worldliness out of the world. We will take it all. Our men will go and beg and take money and throw it at the temple. People say, why are you building a temple when there are hungry people? And we will answer them. God doesn't need to eat. And we'll say, that's right. God doesn't need a temple, but you need a temple. God's everywhere. Yeah, but you don't see him everywhere because it's apparent from your actions. Because if you were standing in front of him, you wouldn't act like that. So we're building a temple because you need a temple. You say he's everywhere, but you see him nowhere. We build a temple, and then you feel obliged to come, and then you conduct yourself appropriately. And if you do, standing before God, eventually the universality of the deity will become apparent to you, and then you'll see him everywhere. Then there'll be no inside or outside to your practice. Once here in North Carolina, I was giving a lecture, and an Indian man said, Swami, I think that the practice, spiritual practice, should be private. Because we were doing kirtan, like that. So it should be a private thing. I said, in spiritual life, there should be no difference between the private and the public life. That is your spiritual life. Before that, you may be religious, and you go to church on Sunday. But if you want to have a spiritual life, it has no difference between your public life and your private life. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, we will go and we will take the Vishai of the world, or the enjoyable thing, whatever the money, and we will throw it at the temple, make it opulent there. And what we will do, we make it a temple of Gaura, Radha Madhava. Gaura and Radha and Madhava. And this is typically the deity configuration that we put in this temple. And we'll worship the Rag Marg. We will worship the Pujala Ragapa. We will worship the Rag Marg. We will not worship in awe and reverence God, but we will have reverence for the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the type of love that they have. We'll have reverential disposition. We'll keep that thing very high. It is not a cheap thing. Not a cheap thing that you can read a book and learn some Sanskrit and repeat it and so forth, and have a little parkia on the side. In the name of Babaji, something like that. There's problems that he was encountering. So he wanted to counter that. And his idea was that we will worship. So Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj actually changed the verse, Kirtanam from Vishayarangi, but the same implication is there. Because they're taking opulence from the world, they were transmuting it, if you will, into Sankirtan, or by Sankirtan, it was being gathered and so forth. So we will do kirtan, we will glorify, the implication is, the Rag Marg, and the Swarup Shakti, the Ragatmikas, they'll be very generous. They'll be inclined to bring us within the fold, and the reverence go to the Bangi, then it'll be crossed naturally. Not that we will try to go there with our shoes on. No, it's not like that. Again, we're practitioners. We're apprentices in bhakti. We're only apprentices. What does that first deserve? Then deserve. We talked about the meaning of that. Right. If you want to go to India, you say, I want to go to India, I want to go to India, I want to go to India. Well, why don't you get a job so that you can buy a ticket? I want to go to India. Why don't you get a passport? I want to go to India. Get a visa, and so on. So there's some things that you Cheto Darpana Marginal, this is what I'm saying. Right? This is what it means to observe. When you go to the mall, and I've often said, you see the map, it says, you want to go to room 108, it is right here. And what else does it say? And you are here. You've got to put the two things together. It's where I want to go. This is my ideal. And this is where I am. You got to recognize the distance between. Don't ignore the distance and the step that's immediately in front of you that you want Radha and Krishna's Leela to manifest in your heart. Maybe you ought to clean it out. That's not separate from Radha. Oh, you're only doing Sankirtan. You don't know about the Brahman. To sit down and just talk about all the romantic leelas of Radha and Krishna. What did Mahaprabhu do? As I said, he was doing Sankirtan in Sri Vasana, but some pious people sat on the bank of the Ganges and they worshipped that what was going on in the courtyard of Sri Vastakur. And for those people, he came out. Mayamrigam Vande Mahapurushate Vande Mahapurushate Sriman Mahaprabhu in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? He left that Vishnu Priya behind, watching tree. On the basis, on the one side, of a curse of a Brahmin, on the other side, I'm talking positive. On the pious people who didn't try to go in. Brahmin tried to go in by saying, I only eat milk. I sustain myself only by drinking milk. See how pure I am. I should be allowed to enter the kirtan. Mahaprabhu said, you think that you can enter my kirtan by this kind of purity? You have no idea what my kirtan is like, what's going on in Sri Vasta's house. The people who felt they were unqualified, Mahaprabhu said, maybe you have some qualification. You think it is high. You think it is beyond you, but still you want nothing else. So Chakvasudus studies the rapes of the Raj Lakshman Dharmishta Arya Vasas Mayam Rigam Daritaitsitam. Mayam Rigam, for those people under the influence of Maya, he came out. And his last words to Vishnu Priya was, just see, we're in a different Leela now. And in this Leela, our role is to cry. You will cry here for me, your loss, and set an example of my absence. And I will cry. We'll cry for the people of Kali Yuga. I must fulfill the Dharma of Kali Yuga. And in the context of fulfilling the Dharma of Kali Yuga by distributing the holy name as the Yuga Avatar, I, who am more than the Yuga Avatar, being the Avatari himself, coming with my own internal purpose, will fulfill that purpose with the anga of kirtan. And it's my own type of kirtan. It's Prem Sankirtan. Chaitanya Shishti, Prem Sankirtan. Jagannath Puri, of course, where he went. He left there for only a few months, years, so like he would, not much more than a week before he left, took sannyas. We talked about that. He was initiated by Ishwar Puri. He became the Mashi. He took sannyas from Keshava Bharati, and now he's gone to Jagannath Puri. He's chasing as a sannyasi, having created a teachable moment by putting on a different color cloth than everybody else. Stands up this sort of front with a uniform, right? Now he's going to Jagannath, and he's only 25 years old, 24 years old. Nobody take him seriously because of his youth, perhaps, and of course he's a householder, like everybody else. But he put on a saffron cloth. He took sannyas from the great Keshava Bharati, Sandipan Muni, the Shaivite of Krishna Leela. After having taken his mantra and nam from Ishwar Puri, the Gargamuni of Krishna Leela. And now he's in a systematic search as a sadhana, and in the context of pursuing that, he's demonstrating the life. This is the center of Chaitanya Charitamrita. The book is centered. It has three departments, right? Three divisions: Adi Leela, Madhya Leela, Anti Leela. The center of the book, I don't know, just mean, the emphasis of the book is the Madhya Leela. That's why it's longer. That's why all the teachings come out there. Mahaprabhu is a sannyas lila, is doing the Yuga Dharma. He's going everywhere, chanting, giving Krishna Nam, right? Tasting Krishna Nam. And you know, in a flash, he converts the whole town of Jagannath Puri, and the guru of Raj Prataprudra, Bhattacharya Sarvabhauma, the greatest logician of all India. It's mentioned in Encyclopedia Britannica. This is who Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was. There's a nice story, and I won't tell it, but he's a real sober fellow. And he was converted by Mahaprabhu. He was converted by the conversion, the shell around his heart that made his heart hard with Gyan, Vedanta. Vedanta, heavy, right? It's cracked. That shell was cracked open by what? By the silence. It just became silent. That's all. It was deafening to the silent moment. Deafening. The silence of this boy. I'm speaking the aphorisms of Vedanta to him for 7 days now. His silence is just like, I can't hear the Vedanta anymore. I can't even remember those sutras. His silence is so loud, it's taking over everything. Yeah, this just cracked open the heart, and then Mahaprabhu just went inside. It went inside, melted that heart, melted it. In Sarvabhauma, he tested it. Is your heart melted? Is your bhakti covered by karma or jnana? Mahaprabhu tested him in Jagannath Puri. One day he came to Sarvabhauma's house early in the morning, woke him up and said, I brought Mahaprasad. Bhattacharya got up, made his obeisances to Mahaprasad and to Mahaprabhu and began to honor the Prasad. Mahaprabhu said, didn't you follow the rules from the Karma Marg before taking Prasad? From Manu Samhita and all the other texts, karmic texts? How can you do this, Bhattacharya? He said, it's Mahaprasad. Mahaprabhu was very pleased. Yes, you understood. Your bhakti is not covered by karma. Later, Bhattacharya, of course, came to him and said, we're looking at this Bhagavatam verse and this can't, I think I got to change it. What is that? How's that verse go? It says, worship your enemies. That's what it says. All those things that come that are troublesome to you, understand that this is coming from your past. Tolerate it. Do bhakti to me, and you will inherit mukti. You will mukti pade. He said, I don't like this word mukti. This brings up all these bad feelings for me. I had it previously. Mahaprabhu very pleased. His bhakti is not covered by jnana. He's not doing bhakti for mukti. I mean, why would you do that? Bhakti can give mukti, that's true. But mukti can't give bhakti. Gyan can't give bhakti. But bhakti can give gyan. So, I mean, what are you going to choose, right? Gyan can't give bhakti, but bhakti gives gyan very easily. So, this way, Mahaprabhu was very pleased. We said, you can't really change the word in the Bhagavatam. So, here's how to understand it. Mukti pade. They will attain liberation at the feet pade of Bhagavan. Not Sayuja Mukti. They will attain Vaikuntha lokas and live on the planet with God. And from a Braj perspective, it's also right. They will attain the feet of Sri Krishna. So this Sarvabhauma was totally converted, and when he was totally converted and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was ready to move on and go south and convert South India, share his this Yuga Dharma continue this outreach, if you will. Bhattacharya, when it was said and done, and Mahaprabhu was going to go, won't hold it back, right? Bhattacharya said, "This is one thing you do when you go to South India. We give you advice." And Mahaprabhu was accepted Sarvabhauma like a guru in Islam, like a Siksha guru, an elder. He was a classmate of Mahaprabhu's grandfather, I believe, Nilambar Chakrabarti, and he knew Nilambar Chakrabarti's son, Jagannath Mishra, and now he was meeting the son of Jagannath Mishra in Puri, and he was a sadhu, and it was, wow, this is incredible. And then he was converted by him and so forth. And so he said, so you're going to go, okay, you're Ishwar, you can go wherever you like, but I can't stop you. But if you're going to go to South India, here's just one thing you got to do. There's this guy, I could never understand him. He talks in riddles and poetry and stuff like that. But now, having had your association been converted by you, I know that you and him he's on the same page with you. You're in the same place. It's like off the scriptural map, right? All these Upanishadic statements are glowing like jewels. They're all actually, if you follow them, they're pointing vaguely to the two syllables, Krishna, and the Leelas, the Rupa, the Guna, and the Leelas that come out of that name, that are sweet, divine, that's Prema Madhuri, the Leela Madhuri, and so forth. So when you go to South India, you meet him. Now Mahaprabhu went to South India, and that was when he was a government official. So okay, we'll be sure to see him. Chaitanya Charitamrita, let us liken it for a moment to the Mahabharata. There are people that scholars and knowledge that say this Bhagavad Gita doesn't really fit in the epic of the Mahabharata. Mahabharata is an epic, and it's telling stories of hero stories. And maybe there's a little bit of, moral lessons and stuff like that. This Bhagavad Gita all of a sudden comes along with 700 verses. It's just like, such a distraction from the narrative. So it's obviously just added later in and so forth. This is their opinion. Of course, the traditional perspective is quite different. Traditional perspective that the Dharma, the moral life that's highlighted in the epic, the Mahabharata, is meant to bring us to the spiritual life, from a religious life to spiritual life, from a socio-religious orientation to a spiritual, experiential orientation. This is what it's meant to take us to. And when you go there, from Islam to Sufism, from, Christianity, from Protestantism to Catholicism to sainthood, they don't have saints in the Protestant. And in the mystical side, what would be of all these different traditions, there's no big arguments there. There's no fighting there. They're fighting, Muslims fight with the Christians, Hindus fight with the Muslims, so on and so forth. But amongst the mystics, they may disagree about points, but they're very gentle about time. They have too much in common. They stand on the ground of being. The difference is some people are standing on the ground of being, and some are dancing on the ground of being. That's the difference. And to what extent? Some are not moving, some are moving, and some are dancing. We're in the latter group. Right? This is our idea. This is our difference. We welcome such interfaith dialogue and so forth, right? So Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma said, you see Chaitanya Charitamrita, this conversation that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has with Ramananda Roy is found in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I liken it to the Bhagavad Gita found in Mahabharata. From the traditional point of view, Bhagavad Gita fits really well because the book it's full of moral lessons, the Dharma Marg and so forth. And typically we should inquire into religion before we inquire into Brahman, right? How to be a religious human, and then from there to think about the fact that I'm more than human. What does that mean, right? And so forth. So in the text of the Mahabharata, of course, the Gita comes at just the point where everybody's on the edge of their seats. It's all the romantic intrigue and politics, and now diplomacy is broken down, and this war is going to happen. And so the reader is just like, "Holy cow!" On the edge of her seat, and here comes the Bhagavad Gita. Right? Krishna, how does Krishna begin with it? Forget this moral stuff. We're going to go beyond that. That can't be the be all and end all in spiritual life. There's no end to that. Press down here, come up there. You can become perfectly moral and what? You have to take birth again. So this is how it begins, right? The Gita. And he takes it to such heights. What he says, Machita, Matata, Pranam, Purayanta, Katayantas Jamam, Kushyanti cha, Ramanti cha. These are my devotees. They always chant about me. They sit like this and enlighten one another by hearing, by speaking. Purayanta Paraspara, Katayantas, Imam Nityam. They're always doing my Harikatha about me. And Tushyanti cha, Ramanti cha. As a result of that, they enter into Sambandharupa and Kamarupa, two forms of Raganuga Bhakti. They enter there. This is Tushyanti cha. So Ramanti cha. So it fits. It fits very well. The strategy of Vyas. What's he trying to do there? Just keep people in the moral realm? No, he wants to take them to transcendence. So, as the Gita is the real heart of the Mahabharata, you take the Gita out of the Mahabharata, what have you got? Moral lessons. You don't really understand who Krishna is. So, Chaitanya Charitamrita is something like this to Chaitanya. Here, the whole thing, right? What it's all about is found. And here we find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking to Ramananda Roy, and Ramananda Roy is the answer, and Krishna Chaitanya is the question. Who's Ramananda Roy? Well, Mahaprabhu said he's Pandavarjuna. Okay, we can't disagree with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? Here, it's as if Krishna thought, I spoke to Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna in the midst of the battle. I wonder if he fully understood it. Here he is again in my Gaura Leela. Let me find out. I'll ask him the questions and see if he can answer. So Arjuna is in the position of answering. And he answers very well. He certainly understood that the Bhagavad Gita, not so overtly, but at least overtly, it's speaking about Rag Bhakti. And its sequel, what's the theological sequel to the Gita? The Bhagavatam. That's what it's all about. So it must be there in the Gita. It is. In verses like the one I chanted and a few others, right? This is where it's going to. To Rajmarg. To Vrindavan. Right? So now, the interesting thing here, of course, is that Pandavarjuna is answering, and it's clear that he understood very well. But I mean, could he have understood all that so well? I mean, it goes very high, this Ramananda Sambhava. Goes so high. It ministers so well to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in terms of his internal desire to understand the love of Radha. As I said, in love there is no other. This is, of course, the problem. Problem is resolved in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Radha wants to become one with Krishna in love, and Krishna wants to become one with Radha in love. When they become one, they each start to become like the other, and there's still this duality. You understand? The more Radha tries to become one with Krishna, she starts to see things from Krishna's vantage point. The more Krishna tries to become like Christ, starts to see from Radha's vantage point. So how will they ever come together? This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This was the result. He has brought them together in his person. He fully embodies and represents the fullest unification of Radha and Krishna, which they so pursue. How dear then is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission and his devotees to Radha and Krishna. Jiva Maharaj used to say, if you go to the gates of Goloka and you tell them, they say, where are you coming from? I'm coming from Navadvip. Open the door. Come right in. You get a free pass. Coming from Navadvip, come right in. No problem. Might come from other quarters. It might be question. No, you belong over here. No, you should go over there. Okay, and embark with a chin. But okay, but over there. But for the Gaudians, they're taking the. You know, we stay when we were young, go to spend time at Prabhupada and Vrindavan for the festivals, and we go to Navadvip first, and then to Vrindavan, and we take the train, which was the Radharani Express. From Navadvip. Radharani Express that runs only from Navadvip to maybe back and forth, right? So Ramana Roy becomes here now the Ragnar Chaitanya. But the question comes to our mind: really, Pandava Arjuna understood all of that? Well, I mean, it's not like overtly there in the Gita. I mean, the things that he came up with, that Mahaprabhu caused him to cover his mouth. This prema vivarta vilas, the arrow, the varta within praying, that the bewilderment between Radha and Krishna. It's a very esoteric, extremely esoteric topic, right? Arjuna understood all of that. Therefore, when the great Kavi Karnapur was trying to sort out who's who in Gaur Lila, who in Gaur Lila are they in Krishna Lila, when it came to Ramananda Roy, he had to scratch his head. He had to scratch his head. He said, there are different opinions. He's using what we call Shastra Yukti. He's making conjectures based on scripture and the statements of other sadhus and so forth, and trying to identify the bhavas of Mahaprabhu's associates with the bhavas that are personified as the associates of Krishna. And so there's a room for thinking about some of these a little differently. There's room for that. This is not something to be militant about and create sectarian boundaries over. Because I look at Raman, for example, this way, or another one that way. So there's room in the book itself, right? Some people misunderstand this book, especially with regard to Raman, because some people, Kavi Karnapur says, some say that he's Arjun combined with Arjun Saka, the Priyanama of Braj. He seems, some people translate it to, or some people say that he's Lalita, Saki. Some people say that he's Pandava Arjun. Some people say that he's Arjuniya. So some devotees misunderstand this whole book. They misunderstand what's going on there. And they think he's all of these people at the same time. He's a gopi in Vrindavan. He's a gopa in Vrindavan at the same time. That's not what's being said. What he says, among other things, he says, some say, he doesn't say some say, he says, Ramananda Roy's Pandava Arjun combined with Arjun, the Priyanarma Saka. Why is he saying this? Why is he making this conjecture? Because Ramananda Roy, okay, he's Pandava Arjun. Mahaprabhu said that, okay. But he's saying things that, they're in the Gita. If you've already read the Bhagavatam, practically you can come back and say, here's a trace of it here. But even that would be hard. The extent to which he was acquainted with Rag Marg and therefore so equipped to minister to Mahaprabhu as he did later on, fully in the Antya-lila, when he was living in the arms of Ramananda Roy and Sri Damodar, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu perfected his life as a sadhaka in the Antya-lila. How was he so equipped to do this? Well, looks like he's Pandava Arjun, but the Arjun, who was a Priyanarmasaka of Braj, is united with Pandava Arjun into a third entity. And why does he say that? Because these Priyanarmasakas are so well acquainted with the romantic life of Radha and Krishna. I mean, about Subal, Rupa Goswami says there's nothing that he's not eligible for in terms of seva with regard to the romantic life of Radha and Krishna. He may not do everything that everybody does, given the setting, but there's nothing he's not eligible for. These leaders of Radha and Krishna, they cannot be successful in terms of their desire to unite without the Narmasakas. I mean, there's no one, for example, in all of the Braj, including all of Radhika's associates, who are more adept in breaking them on the anger of Radha that doesn't allow Krishna to come back into her company than Subal. Subal's like, nobody can change your mind today. Get Subal over here. He can, right? So this is how he's like theologically kind of reasoning. Somehow or other, these things can happen. The bhava of Pandava Arjun who's a Saka, but he's a metropolitan Saka. He's not a Braj Saka, right? So that bhava has combined with the bhava of the Arjun, the Narmasaka. And that's what Ramananda Roy is. That's why I said, might be hard to find Ramananda Roy in Krishna Lila. Because he's not, from this way, he's only existing in Gaura Lila, right? It's a combination of two, from two sections of Krishna Lila. The Hastinapur Lila, where Arjun is prominent, and the Braj Lila, where Arjun, the Narmasaka. But you can see how he's theologizing about it. And then he says, next thing he says, some people say that he's Lalita Saki. Why would they say that? Because, well, Lalita Saki is so acquainted with the nature of Radha's bhava, who would be a better teacher. You would find that Ramananda was such a great teacher in the Antya-lila. But he says what? Look carefully at the text. He says that this is speculative. Because Mahaprabhu said he's Pandava Arjun. He's actually rejecting the idea that some people say he's Lalita. He's saying that can't be, because we've got to go with Mahaprabhu. That's final. We can augment that. We can edit that a little bit, but that's the base that we have to stay on. He's Pandava Arjun. He's not Lalita Saka. He's actually throwing that out. So that doesn't, that's an opinions out there that we reject. And then he says, so we got two things. He's either Pandava Arjun combined with the bhava of the Braj Arjun, or he's Pandava Arjun, Das. But again, we need to work with that, because where does he get all that rasic insight about the Braj Lila? So then he gives another option. He says, others say that he is Pandava Arjun and Arjuniya Gopi. Arjun, there's a story in the Puranas that Arjun asked Krishna, what's with the gopis? What's with their love for you that you're so, you're enamored by? How's that all work? So, of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat down and gave a long philosophical discourse, right? Now, he said that, he more or less said, there's no explanation for that. You can't put that in words. What is that gopi praying? You just say what you do. Go to Braj, you go to Vrindavan, bathe in this kund, and then see what happens. So, according to the Purana, Arjun goes, bathes, and he comes out as a gopi. And then some gopis come and find him and say, oh, they call him Arjuniya. So He's a gopi for a day. Gopi for a day. Gopi for a day. Now the story in the poems really is meant just to not to say that Arjuna actually became a gopi. It's really not meant. Really, what it's doing is extolling the virtues of Gopi Bhav. That's what it's doing. And for a day he was a gopi, and then it was gone. And he comes back and he's part of the Arjuna, right? So, but Kavi Karnapur says some people say he's Arjuna and Arjuniya combined, and because Arjuniya was there in the Braj as a gopi for a day, and it would say that. And so this is how we theologize in the Bhagavad. Now you can take a pick in one sense, right? But go a little further. Century later, this was taken up by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who wrote a book similar to Gaura Tika, naming who's who. You know, mostly he says the same thing as Kavi Karnapur. When it comes to Ramananda Roy, he says that Pandava Arjuna became Arjuniya, right, as we just explained, and the Melody Blue says, and Arjuniya is a expansion of Vishaka, therefore he's Vishaka, who is so qualified, likely to teach Rag Bhakti, Radha Bhav to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That was his opinion. Now that opinion has been embraced by some. Even Bhaktivinoda liked that from the Madhurya Rasa perspective. But Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami doesn't seem to like that. This book came later, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So throughout Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Charit, Krishna's Kaviraj identifies Ramananda with Sakyarasa. Find 3, 4, 5 places in there. And in the end of the book, he does it in a very prominent way. He says that just as Lalita Sati tendered to Radha in her separation from Krishna in the Braj Leela, similarly, Swarup Damodar tendered to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his separation from Krishna in the mood of Radha. And just as Subal Saka likes, in other words, just like a Narmasaka gave support to Krishna in his separation from Radha, similarly Ramananda Roy gave support to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he has, in his perspective, this is Krishna's Kaviraj. He's got Lalita Saki and a Narmasaka, like Subal. So he seems to have liked the idea of Kavi Karnapur. Pandava Arjuna combined with Narmasaka Arjuna. He seems to like that idea. So we have some options here to think about the Ragmarg model of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But with regard to the Narmasaka perspective, which is very charming, interest to many of you, I'm sure, it's worth noting, and we'll conclude with this. Let's go back to where we started with Gaura. It starts in the Navadvip, and then really starts to really take off in Srivasangam, in the courtyard of Shiva's court. And after he left there, he went there for us, right? Chasing after us. And how did he chase after us? By setting an example, primarily, and giving his teachings to Rupa Sanatana and so forth, and telling them to take those teachings and put them in books, preserve them, keep reports, and institutionalize this way in a soft way, by ecstasy, in the form of literature. People can approach it like you can't approach a waterfall, but you can approach a lake and drink from it and make it available. And he taught primarily by his example. And so when his public life in Sankirtan becomes so effective, he just turns inward. It turns him inward. The kirtan and the glorification of the Ragmarg turns him inward. I thought he said a verse, I said. And then he can't be a public person anymore. He can't function as a public person. It's not that his outside is different from his inside, but his inside is kind of the outside, and it doesn't work in the outside world, right? It doesn't work. He couldn't find, he was in the hands and the arms of Sri Damodar and Ramananda. And what's happening here at this point is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was showing, you can't teach the Adi Leela. That's why I say, he doesn't say much about the Adi Leela because he defers to Vrindavan Das Thakur, who focuses on the Adi Leela. And shows in his book the aspiration to attain the Adi Leela. This is shown by Vrindavan. He shows his heart. When can I sit on the bank of the Ganges with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates? And he has a yearning for this. So this is the desire of the devotees with the Tripurari. We wander into the Navadvip Leela, not the Jagannath Puri Leela. That's a medium, a means, right? Madhya Leela is showing the Abhideya, the way. Prayojan is the center of Vrindavan Das's book. That's why, for one reason, why Kaviraj Goswami and Chaitanya Charitamrita defers to Vrindavan Das, shows such regard for him. Then he goes on with his Madhya Leela, and then Anti Leela. I mean, what can you teach about the Anti Leela? What can you say about it? You can tell some stories that took place at that time, which he does, but Mahaprabhu is, again, he's no longer a public person. Bhav is its own teacher. After Krishna said what he said to the gopis, that maybe I'll become a sadhu and I'll try to repay you this way forever. Every once and every day of Brahma I'll come. Once I come, for the rest of the time in Brahma day, I'll be pursuing this. So. After that, a couple days, Krishna came. And he thought, I've witnessed the prema of Radha in separation. And I'm committed to pursuing it and glorifying it once in a day of Brahma, appearing like a sadhu somehow or other. I'll figure it out. Before I go, I got to know a little bit more about it. I have to understand a little bit. So he disguised himself like a goddess. He went to the domicile of Radha. And when Radha and the gopis, they saw this beautiful girl, they were just so attracted to her. But he must be a goddess from heaven or something. She didn't speak, but this is Krishna. That Krishna is God. Why are you here? Where are you from? I'm from heaven. Why are you here? But we keep hearing this flute sound in heaven. And it makes everything, like go wild, So I got so attracted to it. I came to Earth to find it. What's the source of this? And then I saw it's this Krishna fellow playing the flute. And I saw what a debauchee was. This is Krishna speaking about himself, right? What a cheater he is. And how pure your love is. And how abusive he is. We've got to get out of this relationship. So Krishna speaking like this, and Radharani then, her praying rises to a high tide. And she cannot, anything that's brought up by Krishna, anything that she turns it around and positive. There's no fault in him. He can't do any fault. As Asli Shiva Padaratam Pranashtam Marasham Manamatam Kota Vidatu Prananakas. The end of Shikshastatam, right? And this is the end of Chaitanya Charitamrita also, that verse tells. And Kaviraj says, Radha spoke this verse. This verse was spoken by Radha. Mahaprabhu was successful in the word. He's entered into the Bhagavad Gita. This was his mission. And he's shown the way to do that. And where is he going? We'll get to that, but in this Leela I'm speaking about, Krishna's bringing up, arguably, ostensibly what seems to be faults on his part, and she's turning those faults into ornaments, which is what love does. All of his faults are turned into ornaments. And she starts speaking about what he's thinking. Why did he set you down during that rasa dance? Oh no, here's what he was thinking. He was thinking that he understood what I was thinking. I was thinking, oh, the gopis, they're gonna, I feel sorry for them. I'm with Krishna, but I feel their separation. So I asked Krishna to set me down and stop, and then they would catch up to us. But why did Krishna disappear? There's no fault on his part. No. He was thinking that if all the gopis come and they see the two of us here, then they'll be upset with us. But if I disappear, they'll see Radha's separation and her desperation, the measure of it. And they'll see that I caused it. They'll blame me. They'll blame Krishna. But they have no blame for Radha. And they'll understand more fully the measure of her love, and that it's billions of times more than theirs put together. And then when the rasa dance commences, they won't object to Radha being in the center around all the other gopis. This is how she speaks. And so then Krishna, who's in the dress of the goddess, says, how do I know you know the mind of Krishna anyway? How do I know you know his mind? No, she says, he and I are one. That's what she says. In love, there is no other. In love, there is no other. What is this love you're talking about? She says, this can't be talked about. It can't be known. Anyone who says they will teach you praying knows nothing about praying. They don't know anything about praying. That's why I say, Auntie Leela, there's some stories that are told that happened. But what's happening, some details. He went here, he fell there, he fell in the ocean, this happened. But what's happening to him? What is the Bhav? They can't teach that. But that will come. Prepare your heart. Here, chant, good association, satisfying, so on and so forth will come. Mahaprabhu showed this. Mahaprabhu didn't just sit and bank of Radha Kund. Eventually, he couldn't move, right? There he was. He couldn't go anywhere anymore. Right? His outer life was such that it drew him within. He couldn't be a public person. Couldn't. So, where did he go, right? And there was a tutelage of Sarup Damana and Ramana. Now, where he's showing us that he will go is that Auntie Leela, the end, it corresponds with Srivasangam, the courtyard of Srivastaka in Navadvipa. And what is the courtyard of Srivastaka? Who is Srivastaka? Oh, he's Narada Muni. Who is Narada Muni? Narada Muni is the farcical Brahmin Vajrabhakti. He's an expansion of the farcical Brahmin Vajrabhakti. What's his name? Madhumangala. Jiva Swami points this out. Right? Just like Krishna expands what materially Dwarka, and so his associates from Braj expand in forms that are suitable for those leelas. Narada Muni is the expansion of Madhumangala. Srivastaka, therefore, from a Rag perspective, is identified with Madhumangala. Srivasa means that his heart became a vasa for Sri. Madhumangala is a fast friend of Krishna, no doubt about that. But he's also a Kinkar of Radhika. And he manifested Srivastaka, this Madhumangala, Anarmasaka, has manifested his heart in the form of a courtyard. A suitable place for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to experience Radha Bhava in the context of Nam Sankirtan. The Nam Sankirtan, the Mahaprabhu. The Purnima Mahamotsuti, the Bhaktavinda, the Old Premanandi.
Tripurari Maharaj, to the Guru Maharaj, Vijay.
I'd like to invite all of you
Guru as well, if you pick up your map, we're gonna have this video, we have a few offerings.
I can't carry this.
Sorry?
I can't
You
carry.
can't carry the, his mat, his mat.
Oh.
I'll have a.
Yeah, we can.
So come, if everyone can come first and then you can.
Okay, so we need to get this.
All right.
So what is happening now?
A little drama, couple dances, party back in here, and then present.
Wow. So there's gonna be a drama in there.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Did you end it?
I haven't ended yet. Consider is,
You're going there, there's gonna be a drama. Drama,
Leave it on.
drama, dance.
Drama and a dance.
Like,
Then we come back here for RT.
Hare Krishna,
Yes.
Mamsi, I just read your message. The Abhishek has already happened. We live streamed the bhajans and the Abhishek on the Sri Chaitanya Sangha Facebook. Because of the sound quality again, double video.
Oh, okay.
So if anyone wants to see the Abhishek and the bhajans, you can go to the Facebook page. Okay.
I don't have Facebook,
Hare
but
Krishna.
is it on the,
Yeah, let's.
is it on the YouTube? Because I don't have Facebook.
Does anyone? So there's gonna be performances now. Like
Oh.
Priya is gonna dance and some other performances. Does anyone want to stay on and watch this, or should we just?
It might be really loud.
It might be really loud. Yeah. Okay. We'll end it here. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Hare Krishna.